Hello, everyone. Uh, Welcome, students, faculty, and staff. This is definitely a pleasure of mine being your host. My name is Kendall Stevens. For those who don't know, I graduated from the Community College of Philadelphia this past fall, or spring rather, of 2020, and was their first openly trans commencement speaker. So being part of this amazing opportunity to elevate and embrace trans women is just an opportunity that I'm just really glad to have. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and welcome to the Transgender Womanhood panel, which is hosted by the Mark David LGBTQ Center at Community College of Philadelphia. They do amazing work there. Definitely a leader in helping promote a lot of the LGBTQ plus initiatives at community college and helping build a more inclusive and diverse space for those students who do identify as such. And I can personally attest to some of the fundamental changes just in my life, just me being connected with the Mark Davis Center. Phenomenal work. So thank you very much. So we're going to introduce our guests for today. Um, these are the showmakers here. I'm really excited. So I want to definitely take the pleasure at this point in introducing some very powerful trans women, and we have four of them. They're great. They're amazing. So I want to start with Alonda Talley, who someone I know personally, amazing woman, powerful queen, who has done so many advocacy work around the city, including working for the Home for Hope, which is a shelter program for those who are LGBTQ identified. And she's been doing so much work over the years. She puts herself on the front line, and that's just really amazing. So thank you, Alana, for joining us today. And she'll tell you more about some of her experiences in her advocacy work with the Philadelphia environment. Next, we're going to introduce Mia Miana. So I know her affectionately as Mia. Uh, she is what you would call the behind the scenes advocate. You know, you may not always see her on the front line, but she's definitely there. She's moving and she's grooving, and she's making a lot of positive ways to help promote um, healthy trans spaces, and helping provide and promote a world that is just more trans inclusive. So she's doing amazing work. I've seen her on the front line as well. She is a very notable figure in our community and someone I'm glad to call a friend. So thank you for joining us, Mia. I appreciate it. So next we have Samantha Say 10. She is emphatically present in the queer anti-racist movement that serves to combat the disenfranchisement of the marginalized LGBTQ communities, but more um, specifically the trans movement. So we definitely are glad to have her here. I haven't had the pleasure to know her on a personal level, but I've done my research and she is a force to be reckoned with. So don't sleep on this one. And so thank you for coming today. Thank you so much. And next we have Paris Ryan, also known as Lamia. You're talking about a fierce live performer in Philadelphia's nightlife. Here we are. She's amazing. She's fierce. And she has been live performing in Philadelphia's nightlife scene since 2015. So she has some time in. She knows the ropes. And she's been living in her truth as a proud transgender woman since 2016. So thank you, beloved, for being visible. Thank you for being an advocate. And this goes to show with the diversity of this panel that there isn't just one way to be visible in this community. There isn't just one way to advocate. You can advocate with your live performances. You can advocate behind the scenes, and you can advocate on the front lines, or find a mixture of all of those and more. So it's just really good to have this diverse crowd of so many talented women. So thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to allow this time now to allow the guests to further elaborate on who they are. So let's start. We're going to start with Alonda. Uh, Please, if you don't mind, again, stating your name, pronouns, gender identity, and some notable professional roles or community work that you're involved in or have been involved in.
Hi, my name is Alonda. My pronouns are queen, mother, she, and her. And all right, so how want to start this one? Um, basically, so right now I work at the Philadelphia AIDS Consortium, known as CPAC. That's located on Croydon Arch at the JFK building. Um, and lately the most thing I've been involved in was it was a protest on October 27th of 2020. And when I went out in protest, I stood on the front lines. And when I stood on the front lines, when we was in front of the cops, nothing happened. And then when I was about to go home, I was attacked brutally by the cops. And with that being said, I went through a lot of trauma and whatnot, and I had to reconciliate back to the Morris home and go through therapy and stuff and whatnot. And through that therapy, I found more about myself through my being sober and whatnot. And the reason why I'm not just starting with just one thing, because my life is just all the way around the world and it's all the way around the board. So if you really want to get to know me, or as more as I speak, I will tell you more and farther, but the story always changes up. But in the end, you will see it's all the same because I always take it from a different point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Alonda. I told you, good work happening. I have to take a moment to just honor her resilience. I regard her as a friend. We've been through our ups and downs. We love hard and sometimes we fight a little hard. But let me tell you about the resilience of this woman right here. I've seen her battle some incredible odds, and she always finds a way to smile, always finds a way to help support someone else, even when she's already mired in grief or suffering of some sort. And she's so selfless. And I am just so grateful to know this person. So thank you, Alana, for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. I look forward to hearing some of your responses to some of the questions that we have today. All right, so moving along, I'd like to start with my sister from a different mister, Miss Mia, or Miss Brooks if you're nasty. Go ahead now. If you don't mind giving your name, pronoun, gender identity, and some professional roles or community work that you're getting into or have gotten into, you want to share with the group?
Hello, everyone. My name is Miana Brooks. I go by she, her. I am a proud, self-labeled, queer, trans woman of color. I, what am I doing? Well, most recently, I became the first post-op trans woman to join a major brunch cast here in Philadelphia, which is groundbreaking in its own. Because there's not very many opportunities for trans performers in the city of Philadelphia. So to cross over in that boundary and open that door is a good accomplishment, I like to say. Um, uh, some of the things that I have been involved in are a few of the protests that happened during the summer of last year. Most notably, I was sprawled across Vogue and CNN and some other news media outlets for being in the background photo of a couple who got married during a protest. And so that kind of launched me into the front lines a little bit more. But I like to kind of keep low and do things from behind the scenes because I don't do things for praise or recognition. I just do it for the betterment of my community. So that's just a little bit about me. And as we go into today's discussion, you'll learn a little bit more of my personal views and personal journey.
Thank you very much, Mia. Again, another one who I've seen personally, you know, break down barriers every single day, and I mean every single day. And again, she's always smiling, and she's someone that I just hold dear. So thank you so much, sweetheart, for doing what you're doing behind the scenes, above the scenes, below the scenes. We're just glad that you're on the scene, doing the work that you do. So thank you so much. Okay, with that being said, we want to head down to Miss Satan. If you don't mind.
Hi,
Tell us a
hello.
little bit. How you doing?
Very good. So my name is Samantha Maria Rivera Fotos, but my stage name is Samantha Satan. I use both they, them, and she, her pronouns interchangeably, and identify as a non-binary trans femme. Oftentimes I'll say non-binary trans woman as well. I am the director of Satan Studios, which is a media and arts collective that is designed specifically to serve the QTPOC, that's queer, trans, people of color, a collective, in the means of fundraising. Oftentimes I'll knock on the doors of white folks, say, hey, there's a lot of people who need your support, come give it to us. So I do that legwork so that other QTPOC don't have to. And then every time that I receive a $5,200 donation, I match that donation in time and energy, and I create free content for QTPOC. And this can look like YouTube videos, promotional pictures. It could also look like support with creating documentation for things, for archival material. The list goes on and on and on. Currently, right now, a big thing that I'm invested in is I'm kind of going through the spaces in Philly. Right now, I'm hitting queer bars, and I am training them in LGBT literacy and anti-racism, and trying to make our spaces a little bit more safer and inclusive for all.
I love what you do. I love what you do. I have to see one of your performances live. I have to admit, a bit of a recluse since the pandemic, but definitely looking forward to seeing something.
Soon, soon.
So, thank you for being here. You seem like a very amazing woman, and I'm glad that you're here now to lend your voice to this very important panel today. So, thank you very much. And last but most certainly not least, we have the one and the only Paris Ryan, also known as Lamia. So, can you please let us know what you're about, name, pronouns, and some things that you're doing in the community, if you don't mind sharing?
Word. So my name is Paris Ryan. I'm also known as Lamia. You may have heard of me as Mercury. That used to be my name, but now it's not. I am an entertainer, a freelance artist, and graphic designer. I also produce some drag shows and other entertainment in Philadelphia, like Transcend at Taboo this Saturday. But shameless plug. I am mostly concerned with like my artwork being centered around uplifting trans voices. And when I produce shows, I always make sure that I'm representing trans people and having a mostly largely trans cast anytime. What else is there? I'm 27. I don't know what else.
No, that's good. That's good. That's more than enough. Thank you for sharing. You look amazing, by the way. I'm so awful at makeup, and Mia can tell you. She's always reminding me of that. So, y'all look really good today. So, I think we're going to just kind of really get into it. But I have to say, before we get into the questions and answers, all that good stuff, we're talking about womanhood here. And womanhood is not a stagnant concept. It's very fluid. I want you to be very aware of that. And when it comes to trans women, often we're forced to subscribe to the status quo expectation of what a woman should be, how a woman should act or look is toxic. And it's counterproductive, really, when you think about it, when we talk about facilitating inclusive and dynamic environments where we all should be able to prosper in our individual uniquenesses. irrespective of anyone else's personal views of who we should be. And sadly, often trans women experience sexism from both sides and in between. Femphobia, which is really horrible, a horrible thing. That's when trans women who can pass are they have hatred directed in their direction because of it. Internalized transphobia is also a problem. Another rife discrimination from society, just for us expressing our individual womanhood, sense of womanhood. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And the first question is going to be, describe how you came into your womanhood. What would you say is different now than when you first began your journey? And we're going to start just randomly with Samantha, if that's okay.
Okie dokie. So, geez. So I think my womanhood started with me feeling just incredibly uncomfortable with boyhood, because we had to learn boyhood first and realize, oh, this is not for me, and then we discover womanhood. At least that's my narrative. And I tried pretty hard to be boyish as to affirm other people's expectations of me, but it always felt fake. It always felt like I was performing or putting on an act. Like, for example, I remember a distinct time when I was on a porch with my mom and some cousins or whatever, and I distinctly remember looking at another woman's like butt walking by to perform that, oh, I'm checking someone out. Everyone look at me checking this woman out. Look at me, I'm performing hetero man. I'm doing it. But it just felt so fake to me. And in conjunction with that, there are also things like I was told I couldn't like pink. I couldn't enjoy dancing and singing. I couldn't be attracted to men on the basis that I was a man myself. So I tried to suppress, but it wasn't happening. It just wasn't happening. There was always kind of just a femme inside of me saying, I don't want these things. I don't want them on me. And I think the difference between back then and now is simply I have agency now. I get to decide what I wear. I get to decide what's on my head. I get to decide what's on my feet. I do. And I feel like I was always the person I am today. It's just I got to kind of escape from the clutches of parental figures and everything else that told me I had to be a certain way. Like, I don't even work for people anymore. I work for myself. Like, I don't want to work for anyone ever again if I can manage that. Because I can affirm myself, but I can't ensure that other people will. And I trust myself over I trust other people.
Well, I'm so sorry. I'm invited you working out. And we appreciate the things you spoke of. So moving on to Alanda.
Well, coming into my womanhood, first of all, I want to say, like, I had to accept me from a long time ago. Like, because I was raised up on, the Bible and whatnot, and I was always told that I was wrong for being mean. I was always told men shouldn't wear women clothes, and I was always told that it was something wrong with me. And so I came across Isaiah 56 through 3-5, and it was talking about the eunuch. And I got more into more details, and I realized what a eunuch was. And back then, a eunuch was a a castrated man, but that's how they put it. So I realized that God had a purpose for me. So that was the first thing. And then when I realized that God had a purpose for me, things began to just escalate, like with my drug addiction. So therefore, I didn't have to get high. I didn't have to do this because I felt like I had a purpose. And I did have to go back and forth because I had to realize, like, if this was me, because when I first came out to the scene, everybody was like, you should be a girl, you should be a girl. And I believed it, but then I felt like I had to live a life as a boy to know how much of a woman was in me. So when I realized, like, no matter what I did, no matter what I took off, I was still a woman inside. And that's how I came into my womanhood. And I did that about like 3 times until I realized, like, look, God, this is what you had for me. This is what you had for me. And this is who I am. And this is what you made me to be. And to be able to come against like the women who, for instance, say, oh, you'll never know what it's really like to be a woman. And I used to say, well, miss, you'll never know what it's like to be your mother, and you'll never know what it's like to be your auntie. And guess what? You'll never know what it's like to be the woman that I am. And you have to set them straight. Cis women, let them know I am a woman, but I'm not your type of woman, and it's okay. I'm different. And when I started accepting that and embracing that, then I became more into my woman.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad that you know of the purpose that God has in store for you. And, I see you every day just kind of, marching in dignity every step of the way. So thank you so much. Next, we're going to go to Miss Mia.
Oh, so can you repeat the question again? I was like, what is the? How did I come into my womanhood? So I guess I like kind of always felt me, like I was there at little moments in my past. And I didn't catch on to it then. I just feel like I didn't know what it was. And I was raised with 3 other brothers. So like I was pretty much like programmed to operate in like a boy world and be like, all right, like all my brothers are here. I have to operate in this world. These are my expectations of masculinity and all this stuff. So when I would make deliberately feminine choices, I wouldn't really like associate that as me until in hindsight, like now in my life, that I realize these things. But there would just be these little moments and hints, like I would choose like girls and video games, or like I would always want to hang out with the girls, or like all these little things, like the stereotypical trans story, like, oh, I had to stick in a shower, I put a towel around my head, like all those things. Like, I felt those, but I never realized it until like 2016, when I like really didn't have a much like family support at that point. I was like pretty much living on my own, and I was homeless, and it was for reasons that had nothing to do with my gender identity or sexuality, strangely enough. But in that journey, I found myself because I met another woman who was like me, and I just like I never knew until that point that it was like that real, until I actually met another trans woman, and I was like, oh, like, because I come from the suburbs, I'm like way off. I didn't meet another trans woman until I was like also a trans woman. It's like, oh, hey, that's oh okay, that's a thing, awesome. Like I come from bumblefuck nowhere, so I don't, yeah.
No,
So
I
that's how I
completely.
kind of came into my.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. And I think a lot of us have had similar experiences where the first time we met a trans woman was when we were actually a trans woman and coming into our own gender journeys.
Mhm.
And that's kind of sad, but I'm glad that today we have like very powerful, live out loud women right here who, people who are still struggling with their identities and maybe aren't quite ready to come out in the fullness of their visibility can look towards uh, you wonderful ladies, and hopefully even myself, as beacons of inspiration, if you will. So, last but not least for this question, we want to do Rihanna.
So my story is a little different. I grew up in foster care, so if anyone knows the child care system, it's very sheltered for a bit. So I kind of was always like in tune with my womanhood even before I transitioned. Um, Cause there was nothing masculine about me. I was just always me. And I think when I really decided to just say fuck it and just live in my truth, it was after I had just moved out of, I had been transitioned from one foster home into another one because the previous one wasn't a good situation for me. And they had moved me into this new home, and I had decided at that point, and I was like 14, going on 15 at that point, and I was just like, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I'm just gonna do me, and whatever that means. I don't know where my journey is gonna go, but I know I no longer can hide myself for the fantasy of possibly finding a forever home. I have to find my forever home within myself, and that's what started my journey. And I am the strong, powerful woman I am today because I decided to make that decision. And within making that decision, um, you lose a lot of people, and then you learn who is really in your corner. And I learned who was really there for me, and those people are, most of them are still in my life to today. And I just try to live my life for myself, and also letting up and coming trans youth know that at the end of the day you only get one life to live, so you can't worry about what everyone's thinking about you. At the end of the day, the only opinion that matters is your own, of how you view yourself and how you love yourself. And so that's just a little bit about how I decided to live in my truth.
You know what, Miana? Poignant. And since you kind of touched on our second question, I'm going to jump right into it, and I want you to actually start this discussion. What does womanhood mean to you? And if you could try to think about what it means to be a woman in today's society as well, what does it mean to you? And I want you to take this a step further, if you will. After you answer what it means to you and what it means to you in today's society, I want to know one thing. Is there any element of womanhood that all women must possess? Starting with you.
Well, I'm glad you asked that, Miss Kendall, because I have notes. I come prepared, honey. As you can tell, I was teacher's pet in school. That's how I survived. But anyway, so to answer the first question, what does womanhood mean to me? I always say that womanhood isn't defined by gender, but is a state of mind, a state of being. Society is so pent up on associating womanhood with gender that it misconstrues the whole thing in itself. It's a state of mind. If you're a woman up here and you're a woman here, then it doesn't matter anything else, especially within our own trans community. I always say that when you are finally a woman here and here, then the rest is easy. That sets you on your journey right then and there. What does it mean to be a woman in today's society? I like to say today it means strength and independence. We live in a society now that allows women the opportunities the same as men to run Fortune 500 companies, to, decide if they want to be a stay-at-home mom, to even run businesses while they're being a stay-at-home mom, to, affect change in the world. Today, to be a woman is to be a powerful force. But, unfortunately, to be a trans woman of color, it still means being less than your counterparts. And what I mean by that is there is a totem when you think about it, a totem pole. There's men, white men, right? White men, black men, gay men, women, white women, black women, trans women. Doesn't matter what color you are. So we're still less than anybody else. But and to touch on the first question, what is the change between then when I came out and now? Is that we have a little bit more protection now. When I came out, it was fight or die. So just it means to be a woman in today's society, you just have to have strength. It takes balls to be a woman in today's society. And when you ask what element of womanhood that all women must possess, I've learned through my personal journey that there isn't a right or wrong way to live in womanhood. Each woman has unique qualities. All women come in different shapes, sizes, ethnicities, backgrounds, social, financial statuses. So to say that all women must possess one quality across the spectrum is redundant. Because no two women are alike. We're just as unique as our DNA. So I don't think there's one thing that every woman should possess. Who you are as an individual is enough. And when we can take that into ourselves and realize that we are enough as is, and if we decide to choose to grow further or do more with ourselves or whatever, or stay stagnant, that is your decision. But to say that every woman should possess beauty or strength or whatever, it's absurd. It's absurd because no two women are alike. So those are my answers to those questions, and just my personal views.
Thank you. And just to be clear, when Liana spoke about, you know, trans women kind of being less than, what she was talking about was that totem pole of societal importance when it comes to people, how society views people, and how society treats these people. And unfortunately, the lower you go down this totem pole of society, the more disenfranchised you are, the more marginalized you are, the more that you are susceptible to all of the societal ills that will befall you. So that's what she meant, because we all know that we are not less than. If anything, we are more than, because we have fought our way to visibility and fought our way to being unapologetic, and we continue to be. So thank you so much. Now, Samantha, what's your take on this question? And it's a two-part question.
Here we go. Okay, so I was just thinking about the word woman in terms of like its etymology and such, and I know that it was invented in the 16th century, and we know that it doesn't mean what it does today. It back then it specifically referred to only married individuals with vaginas. So it wasn't even like you weren't a woman if you weren't married. You were a woman when you were beholden to a man. So the word woman to me is predicated on the male gaze and male ownership of a femme body, and that does not sit well with me at all. At the same time, I'm also aware that womanhood has been defined by these like cultural normancies that femme bodies are like supposed to be attuned to. Women wear heels, women wear wraps because they're the ones with the long hair. Women cook, women clean. These gender roles define what womanhood is. However, I'm also fully aware that heels were invented for men so they can feel less inadequate. And wraps have been used by many genders in many cultures for many centuries. So the fact that it has changed and we can pinpoint its invention linguistically, to me, this means that it can be changed, that it does not have to be stagnant. Like that, like every other word, it's subject to change. So for me, womanhood in its essence is also subject to change. And since I myself have little to no power over the perception of a femme body, for me, my reaction is to say screw it all. I don't want anything to do with it, especially since I know it's a tool for oppression. My disregard for men owning my body and my disregard for the forced gender roles, it all leads me to to strip myself from the man woman binary altogether and exist for myself. I get to define who I am, and that doesn't have to be in any relation to the man woman binary. And then, of course, at the same time, I love my femme roles. I love the expectations. They're kind of cute to me sometimes. So I use them when I want them. I embody them if and when I want to in any given context or moment.
When you tell your story, you set your own narrative. And that's so very important that we set our own narrative. And that's how we find personal freedom. So thank you for sharing. So I'm going to go on to Lamia.
So what does womanhood mean to me? And is there any element of womanhood that all women must possess? So when I'm faced with the conundrum of womanhood, I also have a very similar philosophy as Samantha, that I don't exactly subscribe to that. Like, I'm non-binary in philosophy, but in my practice of life, I am a trans woman. So I want to be affirmed in those aspects, to still be a woman in my transness and being. So womanhood, it's important to define for me as something in order to live within those parameters. So I would like, when it comes to womanhood, I think of how it is framed for us our whole lives, and how we are supposed to look certain ways for visual stimulus and act certain ways for all these other things. So to me, I'm rambling a lot, but to me, like, when I think of like what womanhood is, it's mostly like, what do people want out of me? And it's very limiting and constricting to try to think of it that way, which is why I subscribe to Samantha's philosophy more of like, I want to break away from what is expected of a woman, because all these things like secondary sex characteristics, or like fashion choices, or financial status, or marital status, are so like so surface level and not so temporary, that like, I think it's foolish to ascribe those things just as womanhood when they are all just so much more. So to answer the second question, is there any element of womanhood that all women must possess? I think that the big answer is no. As so far the board, it's like that. I don't think that all women should fit into those roles. I agree with Mia. I agree with Samantha. Like, it's not like, not everyone has to be what is ascribed as like the strong, like, transgender woman who is like a leader and a fighter. Like, and you can live your life as a person without having to be a superhero. Like, I always feel like it's so either like glamorized or damning when it comes to like womanhood for trans women. Like it's either like you're a hero or you're not a hero at all. Like it's never just like I'm a person, you know. But yeah.
No, I totally agree. Thank you. I mean, often we put ourselves in these binary and status quo boxes from which we cannot escape from. So sometimes the best solution is to not even get inside the box to begin with and just create our own narratives, like I said before. So thank you so much. And last but not least, Alonda, what does womanhood mean to you? And is there any element of womanhood that all women must possess?
Well, for me, for one, womanhood means knowing who you are. Because being a trans woman, I always had to stand up, like going through school, going through anything, and I always had to be told you were not a woman. And I had to let them know that the same struggles that my mother had and your grandmother had and they had, that I get from the same men who do you and treat you wrong and abuse you and drag you through the streets, I get. So you look at my story, you look at your story. That's what makes me a woman. Not because I bleed, not because I can give birth, because not all women can. But I have brothers who can. But the womanhood in me is basically letting people know, the knowing, like, this is what I am. Being able to say, I used to tell people in jail, this one woman, her name was Face. She didn't really get into her transition before she passed away. And she said, how did you know when you was a woman? And I said, if every man in the world didn't want me, I would still be the woman that I am today. And that's how I knew the woman that I possess. Now, what every woman must possess, she must know her. And what I mean by that, she must know everything about her to say, I am a woman, or I am gender non-binary, or I am this person. Knowing yourself and being true to yourself is that your womanhood, your manhood, or whatever hood. See, my womanhood was different because I had to embrace both. Because when they say you are a man, I said, I'm more than a woman you'll ever be. And I had to look them straight in the eyes and make them believe it. And if they didn't believe it, I knew who I was walking with. And this is before I got all the surge and all the body, because like Amia said, it has to come in the mind and in the heart. Before all of that extra stuff come, you have to be the woman that you are. I'm not going to, I was about to get into something else, but you have to know. And the knowing is what makes you the woman or the person or the man or anything, the knowing.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for sharing. We have two more questions, so we're going to get right to it. So the last question, second to last question, rather, is what challenges do you face while living in the fullness of your womanhood? And does this impact how you chose to express your gender? And I want to start with Miana.
Well, not just like, well, just like every other woman and every other person in America, I'm just trying to make ends meet, especially during COVID. Okay. So, um, when I decided to live in my truth, that was one thing, and always in the back of my mind was, am I going to be able to uh, provide for myself or provide for a future possible family or whatever, because people think when you transition or you want to come out as gay or lesbian, it's going to somehow impact your work ethic or the finances that you bring in towards your own home, right? So, unfortunately, when you decide to transition into womanhood, there's always some kind of challenges with that in itself, right? So just to make ends meet is the only challenge that I personally face on a daily basis because although we've made great strides here in Pennsylvania and across the United States, we still don't have the exact protections that can keep us from being in an employment line, right? So at the end of the day, like you said earlier, trans individuals, period, are resilient. We know how to have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hustles. We got side jobs. We got under the table jobs. We doing survival sex work. We are doing whatever it is to put a roof over our head and food on that table. Whether it's for me, my mom, my dad, my aunt, my cousin, my brother, my whoever we are laid up with, we find a way. So, that is basically the challenges I think that I personally face. Like right now, I'm doing this panel. I'm on a brunch cast. I currently am a new employee at Jocks. I work for TPAC. I do consulting. Look, if the right person walk up on me and got the right amount of money, he might get turned. I can hit a pole with the quickness. Like, ain't nothing gonna stop me from securing the bag. Now, I'm gonna answer the second question to that. Does this impact the way I express my gender? Hell to the no. Because when I was broke, I was still Miana. And if the Lord sees fit to bless me to become rich, I'm still gonna be Miana. I'm just gonna be sucked and tucked and lipoed and everything else. But it's never impacted the way I express myself. Again, we are a resilient community. Whether we got 1 penny or 1,000,000 pennies, we find ways to express who we are, to the world through clothing, through thrifting, through secondhand, through stuff that's given to us. We make a way. So none of these challenges have ever impacted the way I've come off to people or the way I, decide to express my gender. At the end of the day, I'm fabulous, whether on a budget or no budget. That's just who I've always been. And I also like to think that if I did allow those challenges to stop me from expressing my gender, then I would have been a dead long time ago. I wouldn't be here, because at the end of the day, not that I could kill myself, because I could. That's a whole other story. I'm too chicken for that. But I choose life and I choose happiness. And if you allow little challenges like not being able to make ends meet, or someone calling you a man on the street, or feeling like you don't pass, to bring you that down and that low, then what is it all worth, So I choose life and I choose happiness, because you cannot control how others view you. You can only choose how you view yourself, and allowing yourself to push forward and to fight to make those challenges not a challenge anymore, to overcome those obstacles and to keep fighting forward. So is that everything? Did I answer everything? I know I can preach sometimes.
I love it. I love it. Listen, I love the tenet of doing you and always being you. So thank you. We'll in the interest of time, we'll start with Lamia, please.
Sure. So what challenges do I face while living in the fullness of my womanhood? So I think we all know the basic challenges that women face in like in income gaps against our male counterparts or other parts or anything. But the main challenges that I face in my own personal womanhood are trying to wrestle with like my depression and other physical maladies, and try not to associate that with my womanhood and trans experience, because like the biggest challenge I have is that I really can't pursue hormones as easily because I'm a type 1 diabetic, and that has led to a lot of like different outlooks on me as to either like, oh, she doesn't really take her transition seriously because she doesn't want it or something, or like she doesn't take her health seriously enough to be able to get it. Like all these preconceptions placed on me because I'm not actively on hormones yet, but you know, I'm trying to do that, and that's my biggest thing. My biggest challenge trying to express my womanhood is that I'm held back by my disabilities. And does this impact how I choose to express my gender? Another resounding hell the fuck no, because as much as I could be limited by either society's expectations or my own body, it's still, I'm still going to be out, and like it's inherent, it's intrinsically part of me. I'm always just going to be me who is a woman. So like it doesn't, like those limits are not going to stop me from serving it and being glamour as much as possible. So we work with what we got, you know.
I totally agree. Wow. Thank you for sharing. That was a powerful story. And as Miana was trying to tell us, hormones is not equal at all womanhood or transitioning or any of that, whatever. So don't feel like that's what you need, and you know that already, you know. But anyone watching this, that you cannot be on hormones a day in your life by either choice or circumstance, and guess what? You're still a woman. Know that. So moving on, Alonda, would you mind answering that question about what challenges that you face while living in the fullness of your womanhood, and how, if at all, this impacts how you choose to express your gender?
All right, you said how I face womanhood. All right, that's what you asked me, right?
Correct.
Okay. I mean, like how I deal with womanhood basically is any complications that I deal with womanhood. I mean, the disrespect and being able to hold my head up when they put me down, and you know, being able to say like I am what I am because I am the queen that I am, you know. And what I mean by that is basically like, for instance, when you tell a cis man and you tell him you trans, and then he start calling you all this and that and all, you know, man this and man that, you have to be able to hold your head up high and be able to say that I am the woman that I am without like really telling them in their exact words, not letting it bother you. Or when someone clocks you and you just walk by like a cis woman would be like, I don't know who they talking to because that's not me, you know. And I think that's the complications that I go through in life. If there were any, once I do reveal to people that I am trans, and they'd be like, well, damn, you know, you a whole dude. No, baby, no. The right words are, I am a woman who happens to be trans, you know, and you got to break it down like that. And you have to let them know, like, I'm here and I will not be erased. Like, those are the challenges that I deal with. Another challenge that I deal with is like when you, as Black trans women, I realized that I have to show up. I have to show up to Black Lives Matters, letting you know, like, I am a Black trans woman. I am Black before anything else. So I suffer through the same thing you go through. And when them cops find out that I am trans, they gonna treat me like a damn man and beat me. So baby, I have to fight just like you. So that makes me more of a woman. You know, letting people know. And if they don't believe it, it's like what I said, knowing yourself. Always knowing yourself is the main thing. Whether I take my hair off, whether I didn't have no breasts because I used to stuff my breasts with tissue, or I had to pad my hips, I am the woman that I am. You know, telling people like Mia said, like, taking hormones don't make you who you are. Like Deja Alvarez, she was the person that told me that, you know, you are trans when you say you are. And I ain't going from the era I was from, it took me some time to get used to. But then I started saying, you know what, they are trans. And that's who they are, and then you better rep it, baby. Live your life. So I hope that answered the question.
No, it did, and this is a tough topic. I know it's kind of bringing up, some heavy emotions for a lot of us, because this gender journey that we're all on, it gets tough. It really does, and it can take the wind out of your cells. It can be emotionally draining. It can be cognitively draining. It can just really zap you of all energy and leave you a shell of who you are. But we are a force to be reckoned with, and we get up to fight another day. So I'm so happy that you said all that you said. Very powerful. And I'd like to, so please, Samantha, could you please answer that same question, my love?
Of course. So for me, a lot of my challenges are not necessarily challenges with my womanhood, but like Alana said, it's challenges with other people's perceptions of my womanhood. I'd be happy and secure and safe and proud and healthy if it were not for bigots who have trained me to be unhappy with my body, to feel insecure about not meeting expectations. It's bigots who make us feel unsafe, who make us feel less than. It's those people who have made my life so difficult that my mental health is teetering and often. And so something I question myself is, how does someone live fully authentically as themselves? How does someone live their truth when we experience like people making fun of us, laughing at us, pushing us around, touching us inappropriately, generally just hurting us for being the way that we are, or not fully understanding who we are and then responding to it with toxicity? How could it not affect every part of who I am when I'm not afforded the basic human rights that other people have? It's just like, no, you see other people, you see their privilege, and unfortunately you compare yourself to them. It's just like, holy shit, it's not fair. It's not fair. However, I find solace in my community. I find affirmation in my trans siblings, and today I stand very happy, because all three of you right now have affirmed me so much in terms of hormones, because I'm experiencing something where I was on hormones for a year and it's been stripped from me. I am just reverting back. And I feel it all over my body, everywhere in my body I feel it, and it is gut wrenching. It's awful. I wish this on no one. But I'm here today. I'm still alive because I have folks like you, because I'm not alone. And I think regardless of what challenges I have, I'm going to face them, and I'm going to get through them because I have y'all.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Someone's going to see this, and they're going to look at these powerful stories. They're going to get inspired. They're going to get some sort of help, guidance, perspective, because we're talking about real life here, real life in real time, of what we're going through, what we have gone through. But what I'm seeing in all of this is fierce empowerment. Chutzpah. I'm loving it. So thank you so much for sharing. In the interest of time, last question. Please answer it in 60 seconds or less. Starting with Alonda, what is the one thing you wish you could tell all cisgender women?
Well, I've been saying it through the whole time. Know who you are. Know your damn self. Don't let nobody tell you nothing. You don't need nobody to validate who you are. Validate your damn self. Love yourself for who you are. Woman, whatever you are. But for womanhood, knowing yourself. Knowing what type of woman you are. Know that I have masculine traits in this level and I have feminine traits in this level, and say, bitch, me, excuse my language, but saying this is me and this is the woman that I am.
Thank you, thank you. And I'm glad you mentioned this because it also seemed like you were talking not just to cisgender women, but also trans women as well, which is good. So how about this? Um, with Lamia, what is one thing you can tell all cis women and trans women? How about that? Let's open that question up a little bit. 60 seconds or less, if you don't mind.
Uh, yeah. So, uh, originally, I was gonna say that I would tell all cis women to uh hold the door, kind of like, like, if as we're all trying to find liberation, to like not leave trans women behind, because cis women are also obviously struggling with it too, but like not to leave trans women behind in the pursuit of liberation from like classism and sexism, like to take trans women along with us, to hold the door open, like. And that goes to other trans women too. Like, don't leave your other trans sisters behind, or non-binary people, to like fend for themselves. If you find an avenue to like uplift us, like hold the door open, like to everyone. Like, if a girl's struggling with homelessness and one of us is fucking rich, then sorry, part of my language, I curse all the time. But if one of us is rich, like, we help us out, because we've all been there. Like, most of us have all been trying to get from nothing to something. So it's like, yeah, hold the door is what I would say to both cis and trans women.
I love it. What about you, Samantha?
So Lamia and I were talking earlier in the group chat, and my response was to like, "What do you wish to tell all cisgender women?" Was like, literally just leave me alone. Don't unless you're paying me. Don't ask for my labor. Don't share your opinions about my body and the choices I make regarding my body. I don't want your praise. I don't want to be called brave. I don't need to share my trauma with you so I feel better. I have a therapist for that. I don't need you. um, you are you're also just not beholden to my narrative. I'm not that close to you. I'm not your sister. and and just I would like them to stop trying to affirm me so fervently and so vehemently as a trans woman, when I'm actively trying to affirm myself as a non-binary trans femme, as a person who practices body neutrality. There's this. It's either this is overbearing compliments to the point where just like, I'm uncomfortable now. Please stop, or it's everything we said earlier, where it's kind of like a disregard. And sometimes I just, like Lamia said earlier, I just want to be a person. I just want to exist. I just want to feel like just another person.
Exactly.
Exactly.
With you when it comes to break comment. We're not brave for just living our lives. That's it. You're not brave because you're living your life. You're just living your life. And that's just the end all be all. So, Mia, can you take us away?
So I am going to come from a place of like where we were last year and the protesting and all this, like these movements. I just want to say to cis women that we could achieve so much more if we work together than fighting against each other. Stop worrying about what we're doing. We don't, trust me, we don't care or worry about what you do. But if we teamed up, we could get a lot further and get a lot more stuff done. Also, can we stop spending time competing with one another and, feeding our own egos and praise chasing, or because we're not getting anywhere. Um, and I feel like if we could put all that BS aside, we would get a lot further. So let's work together and stop dividing. Because again, womanhood to me equals strength and independence. So I'm saying let's work together to take down the patriarchy so we could get some shit done. Because They like to say behind every man, good man, there's a good, even better woman. No, we're actually manipulating the man to do what we want. But instead, let's just tear the whole man away and do it our damn selves. Because we all know that we do it better anyway. That's all I got to say.
Well, we definitely appreciate your feminist views there. All right, Sister Soldier. Listen, very forward thinking and thought provoking dialogue today. Simply wow. What can really say to that? I mean, obviously, from what I've gathered from these four amazing panelists, is that there's more than what meets the eye when we define what womanhood is and how we define what that means in our lives. And dialogue such as this is very critical as it pertains to facilitating and cultivating sisterhood in our communities, which we are in dire need of. We have to stick together, folks. At the end of the day, it's us that we're going to have to lean on, to rely on, uh, to just to be around that good spirit of sisterhood and family. So let's keep building those relationships. Let's keep building communities. So that concludes our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And extra thanks to our guest today. Please make sure you follow at CCP LGBTQ on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And use the links in our bio to join our LGBTQ student email list. Thanks again.